This is the Weekly Set, the official podcast of TVEnthusiast.com. Episode 61, recorded June 16, 2016. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Weekly Set, the official podcast of TVEnthusiast.com. I am your host, editor-in-chief of TV Enthusiast, Tyson Gifford, and joining me today, as always, is our keeper of comics, Will Roerick.
Hello.
So today we are going to talk about Voltron, Brain Dead, and the season 1 finale of Peaky Blinders. So let's kick things off. I'm going to talk a little bit about Voltron. Will hasn't seen it, so I'm going to keep it a little bit general. I don't want to put too many spoilers on here, and I also want to have a more in-depth conversation on it later when Will's seen it. So kicking off with Voltron, I like it. I wasn't the hugest fan of like Avatar and Legend of Korra. Those series can actually have an aspect to them which annoys me, which is when you hear people say like, oh yeah, the best anime in the last decade is Legend of Korra or something, and it's like, yeah, you don't watch much anime, do you?
No, you don't. Yeah. Wow.
This anime is doing some pretty crazy stuff, you know, like Erased and Attack on Titan, and there's so many amazing anime series constantly coming out. So like I have a little bit of bias going into Voltron. Just
meanwhile, back in reality where things happen.
I have a little bit of bias going against Voltron because of that, because I have this like annoyance at that aspect. And it's not fair because it's not the fault of Legend of Korra or Avatar, it's just some of the fans and the way they act. So I try to put that aside, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to watch Voltron. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to take it in. It's been so long since I've seen the original Voltron series. I don't really remember much of anything. I remember the theme song. I remember the lions. I remember them forming Voltron. I remember the vague archetypes of the characters. And that's about it.
That's about all I remember.
So when I watch this, I'm like, I don't remember what of this is the same, what's been changed. Like, I don't really know. But in general, I like it a lot. So I'm about 9 episodes in. I think there's 11 episodes. So I'm just like, I know I'm 8 episodes in. So yeah, episode 9 is next for me. So I got like 3 episodes left. Yeah, I like it. It's definitely, I like the direction of the story in which it's like these people, they're kind of taken away from their galaxy and then they kind of discover this Voltron thing. It's not like this existing entity that they then become the pilots for. Like, I like that aspect of it. Kind of has like a fantasy feel to it, which I really dig. And then the actual characters are kind of, you know, they're funny. The best character is, that like the princess has this like servant that's played by one of the guys from, God, what's that? The Flight of the Conchords. So one of the guys from that group plays this guy, and he's hilarious. Great comic relief character. There's, you know, it's a pretty good show. I like the way it's heading, and I'm continuing to watch it. So I don't know what else to say without spoiling something.
Then say no more.
Do you have any questions? Anything you want to ask about it?
Not really, because I don't remember much from the original show, so I can't even, like, ask, like, oh, is it just like the original? It's like, well, I don't know. I saw that when I was, like, 4.
I wouldn't be able to tell you either.
I'm like, is the animation quality good?
Okay, so the animation, it's like 2D, for the actual, like, character animation and stuff, and then Voltron itself is 3D, like, cel-shaded. So it kind of blends pretty well. The animation quality's decent. It's good. It's not up to par with, say, like, the better anime series out there, but it's definitely way above what you'd normally see in like a Western cartoon.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
It's at a pretty good quality. Yeah, it definitely is. And one thing I can say, and everything I can say without spoilers, it does have like a really good feeling of like exploration and adventure to it, which I think is missing in a lot of recent cartoons, or like Western cartoons. You know, like you don't really have that. Like when you'd watch something like DuckTales and there's so much sense of adventure, you know, and you don't really have that much anymore, I don't think.
Right.
This does have like a real sense of adventure. So I definitely enjoy that aspect of it. That's about all I can say, really. I mean, without spoiling a bunch of stuff. So, anybody who's interested in Voltron, check it out. It's on Netflix, the whole season. One bit of warning, if you're just sitting down expecting like, I'll just watch an episode or something, the first episode is like an hour and a half or something. After that, they're all half-hour episodes, but the first episode is like a movie.
Voltron? Holy cow.
Just make sure if you're thinking about sitting down to watch it that you have enough time to actually watch it. Because if you're just like, I'm just going to sit down and watch the first half hour, it's like, well, it's quite a bit longer than that.
Okay. Well, thanks for the warning.
That's just the first episode, though. After that, it just becomes like a regular cartoon series as far as length. Next up is a new series on CBS called Brain Dead. This is kind of like a humorous take on politics, basically, and how politics are just batshit insane now.
Yeah.
And they are batshit insane now.
Well, like, it opens off with news clips, like real news clips of like mostly like Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. And it's, you know, and it says like in 2016, it seemed like, people are losing their minds. Or so, you know, and it's like, and nobody knew the reason until now. It's like Donald Trump, it's perfect because like, Jesus Christ, like, all like those are real news clips. All that crazy shit Donald Trump is saying is real, and it supports this narrative that they invented. It's amazing. My mind was actually blown. I was like, Donald Trump is being controlled by brain ants from outer space. Yeah, I totally believe that now.
So what you're saying is you think this is a documentary?
Yeah.
Or a biopic at worst.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a clever premise considering just the current state of our political system. It makes it really fun to watch because everybody's frustrated with it. I think this actually takes place like not in the present, but a few years ago, because unless this is like another government shutdown, this is like, I think supposed to be taking place.
How is this?
When did we have the government shutdown? That was in 2014, right?
Wait. How is this supposed to be taking place a few years ago when like there's news clips constantly throughout the episode of Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump running for president?
Oh, I didn't see them in the clips during it. I only saw them at the one began. They were throughout the episode?
Yeah, there was like the one.
Oh, okay. Then never mind. I'm just wrong.
The one scene where like the senator was getting his brain invaded by the brain ants. He was laying down and you could hear the TV, like news he had flipped on, and it was like Hillary Clinton railing against Donald Trump.
Yeah, it's, I'm just completely wrong then. I was thinking because they're talking about a government shutdown, which we actually had kind of happen like a couple of years ago. So I thought it was going to be doing that, but I missed those.
They invented a fictional government shutdown to help with the narrative, to build a narrative excuse for like how this comes to occur, or at least part of the reason.
I definitely liked it though. I'd say probably my favorite part was when Tony Shalhoub got invaded by the bugs. Yeah. And then you see him kind of hitting the side of his head and you see his brain coming out of his ear.
Yeah, his brain coming out of it. That was gross.
It's like then you kind of get the idea of how the insects work. They basically invade the brain and they just push out the parts they don't need.
Yeah, they just push out the parts they don't need. And then he's looking at like this brain matter that came out of his ear, landed on his pillow. He's poking at it and then it just explodes. You know? It's gross.
Speaking of exploding.
And it's like, the whole thing, like, it's also kind of weird too, because like the main character is a documentary filmmaker. She's in Washington, I guess, working on a documentary.
No, she's visiting her family who's in Washington. Her brother and her father are both, and her funding fell through on her documentary.
Oh, that's right. Her funding fell through on her documentary, so she's visiting her family and trying to get funding for her documentary. And her brother, who is a Democrat, apparently he's a giant asshole. Like just big time, does not give a shit about anyone or anything but himself.
So he's a politician.
Yeah. It's funny. It
would be funny if it wasn't so real.
It's funny because then I'm like, and then they have this Republican aide or something who turns out I guess the immediate reaction is, well, this guy's gonna be a giant asshole because, and then it's like, it starts out like that way, but then, he seems to actually care, like she does.
Yeah, they give him a cause with his sister having autism, and
yeah, and so then you get sense these are our two main protagonists for this show.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Shalhoub is now has been invaded by the Body Snatchers. I'm guessing he is the primary villain.
Probably, considering the casting choice.
Yeah, probably considering the casting choice. So far, it's a fun show. I mean, I'm interested to see where they go with this.
It certainly explains politics.
Politics. We get this idea, I don't know what the aliens' intentions are, but they seem to because they have the aliens they take over this one guy. He's not a politician or anything, but but they take over this one guy and he's possessed. And he's constantly talking about having to take down the damn Republicans. And
then the Republican guy gets possessed and he stops wanting to compromise with the Democrats.
Yeah. And I'm like, there's obviously an agenda here. It's just I can't figure it out from this first episode.
Yeah, it's gonna take a little while to get rolling into that part, but right now it's just fun to enjoy the ride and make fun of our just completely inept and ass-backwards political system.
Yeah, completely. Yep, exactly. This is going to be a fun show, I think. I'm looking forward to more of it.
It's like the old saying goes, it's you have to laugh if only not to cry.
Yeah. Oh God, they could have made this entire show about Donald Trump and it would have worked.
Yeah. Man. But so that's Brain Dead that airs every week on CBS. It's one of their summer shows. They seem to be doing, CBS is into this whole kind of high concept summer shows, smaller run shows that don't necessarily fit with the rest of their CBS branding. This isn't like NCIS or anything. This is 13 episode season, quick run, real high concept. They've done a few shows like this, so I'm glad they're doing something a little different, not just completely banking on the geriatric crowd.
Yeah, I know, right?
So this is it's pretty good. I'm enjoying it, and we'll see where it goes from there. Now let's move on to the main topic of this week's podcast, which is the season finale of Peaky Blinders. So this is episode 6 of season 1, British series, so of course very short seasons. I have to say, man, I can't wait for this show to come back. Oh wait.
Yeah, oh wait. This was good. What can I say? This episode starts out interestingly enough with Campbell soliciting the favor of a prostitute.
He's just going for ultimate creep award right now, right?
Yeah, he's just going. It's and the way he goes back, it's so awkward. It's so cringy because he's like, I understand this is a place where men come for certain things. It's like, oh my God, dude, the cringe is off the charts.
Yeah. He's just the perfect example of like the soldier that tries to bring down the bad guy and just ends up being so much worse than the bad guy.
Oh, he is so much worse. He has his way with this prostitute, but he is not gentle with her at all. And like at some point, like he even like hits her. She has like blood on her face at the end of it.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, we don't like actually see that ourselves. And, he does it, but that's what happened. And the whole time, like, he's doing it, he's thinking about Grace.
They're cutting back and forth to shots of her.
And he's thinking about her. And his obsession with Grace is fueling him, and all his actions in this episode are fueled by that obsession.
What about his letter to Grace?
Oh yeah. Well, obviously, like that again.
That was just spitting venom left and right.
That was just spitting venom because he's angry. He's like butthurt to the extreme.
You've betrayed. Your father would be ashamed and
traitor.
You gave yourself to our sworn enemy. Yeah. It's like, dude, she rejected you. Get over it.
I know, right? Like
she doesn't want your old ass.
like Chief Inspector Campbell is like he's like one of those people who gets rejected on Tinder and then they write like this like freaking like paragraph, venomous tirade, like you see like that's him.
And then turns around and says, "Why don't the nice guys ever win?"
I know. Well, the nice guys ever, I know exactly.
He's the perfect example of the villain who thinks he's the hero.
Yeah, exactly. He's the villain who thinks he's the hero, which is it's funny the inversion that this show has because you have Tommy who essentially is the villain. I mean, he's the criminal. He's the one out there stealing, backstabbing, betraying. But he comes off. He has more
sympathetic character.
He's a sympathetic character. He has honor. He has decency, or at least some level of decency. He has some level of honor. Then you have like Campbell, who's supposed to be he's the cop. He's supposed to be he's supposed to be taking out the bad guys, saving the day. But in reality, he's just a monster. He doesn't have honor. He doesn't have decency.
Yeah. He's just, and he's just continuing to go off the rails, or even like kind of the seemingly dirty cops that are still around him are kind of like, dude, like what the fuck?
Yeah, it's like, even the cops are like, dude, what the fuck, dude? It's like, he essentially rapes and beats this prostitute.
Yeah.
That's what he does. And all the while thinking about Grace, then he sends Grace this like incredibly spiteful letter. Thomas walks in to the brothel, because he wants to pay for some of his men to have a good time before they go off and potentially die.
Well, it's also the brothel itself is also the laundromat.
Oh, yeah, that's
where
true.
all their coats are.
That's where all their coats are. Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that actually. Thomas shows up and, the owner is like, well, you won't believe what happened. And he's like,
and then Tommy said, God damn these clickbait articles.
Exactly. God damn.
These all top 10 things Chief Inspector Chester Campbell is up to. You won't believe number 7.
Yeah. Tommy's like, what? He's like, money, dude. I'm not, this isn't free. This info isn't free. He's like, yeah, okay. Puts down some money. Yeah, puts down some money. He's like, so Tommy finds out Campbell is there, and he goes to meet with Campbell, and Campbell promises him that by the end of the day, your heart will be broken. Mm-hmm. and also to further the whole cringy Tinder creep, Mr. Nice Guy, Campbell also says a line that like really cements him as that archetype because he says like, men like me were we weren't meant for love, so we have to pay for what little we get.
So just like cringy too.
Yeah, so it's like cringy. It's like, oh, dude.
And he's trying to put himself in the same boat as Tommy too. He's like, like you and me, and Tommy's like, no, she rejected you, not me.
Yeah, no, he's like, men like you and me. It's like, no, Grace actually wants me.
Yeah, I've actually slipped her the D, and you were just trying.
Yeah. Yeah, like Campbell's like attempts to compare himself to Tommy were laughable at best. You know, and so basically what's going on, the crux of this episode, the big crux is that this is the day all of Tommy's grand plans come to fruition, because
take out Billy Kimber.
As we know, the entire plan, the entire season he's been building up to is this plan to take out Billy Kimber and take over his horse racing operation so that Tommy and the Shelbys could run the third largest legitimate horse racing business in England.
And they already got their license.
They've been planning for this. They had one of their brothers marry one of the Lee girls so that their families would be united against the Kimbers. They have the Kimbers fooled because they're on Billy Kimber's payroll as like kind of like his protection to keep his bookies safe from the Lees, ironically. But mostly from the Lees. So like their plan is like they'll stroll up there like they normally do, under the guise that they're there for Kimber to protect Kimber from the Lees, and the Lees are going to come in and they're both going to join together, turn against Billy Kimber, take him out with their superior forces, because combined they outnumber Kimber's forces. So it should be, it sounds like a fairly straightforward plan, I mean, simple, elegant. Tommy's been planning this a long time, and this is the crux. This is what the episode rests on. Because as we all know, with the best laid plans, they don't naturally go like that.
Well, yeah, Tommy's plan is not to like kill a bunch of people, but to like kind of quietly and quickly take out Kimber while securing all of the bookies, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like not killing, but securing the bookies.
Securing the bookies, yeah, exactly.
And somebody comes running in to the bar and is like, we just saw like 2 cars pulling up with Kimber's men in it heading right here.
Yeah, somebody tipped off Billy Kimber. The only person, since Tommy only told like as few people as possible, he told
just Polly and Grace, I think.
Just Polly and Grace, so he quickly realizes Grace tipped off Kimber, which she did. That's why before Tommy is about, when they're at the bar, Tommy's pouring drinks. Grace is very upset. Tommy goes to comfort her. She admits that she's betrayed him. Grace and Tommy's mother actually have a discussion. It's
Tommy's aunt, Polly.
That's Tommy's aunt. Okay.
Yeah.
So like they have a discussion. Like it is a very tense scene because you think some shit's gonna go down. And instead they end up talking, that's kind of unexpected. They end up talking and Grace realizes, and Polly tells Grace that she has to leave. She essentially, you gotta go. Or, if I see you again, I will kill you. So that
she basically says, I owe you enough that we're having this conversation and I'm not gonna kill you or fight you right now, but you have to get out of here or I will kill you.
Or I will kill you. Exactly. So that prompts Grace to leave.
She talks to Tommy before that, though, and says, tries to encourage him to leave with her, to meet her at the train station.
Tommy says he has too much, that he can't leave with her. He's got to stay. He's got too much to stay,
So she says, think about it and meet me there.
We're getting a little ahead of ourselves, though.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to say that background right now. She says, think about it and meet me there, and we can do it later. And now back to...
Because the next thing that happens, is basically Billy Kimber and his forces show up, and they are considerable. It is large when you see like the total army, because now since Billy Kimber got tipped off and they've been surprised, they don't have the backing of the Lees. The Lees aren't going to be able to make it to this confrontation.
Yeah, they're all out.
They're all out
with the bookies. Yeah, they've taken the operation.
They've taken the operation, so they're not going to be there. So it's just the Peaky Blinders against Billy Kimber's forces, and I think they say they're outnumbered like 3-1. Mm-hmm. Another thing is, Tommy's sister, her boyfriend there, the communist, they break him out of prison.
He's being transported, and his like guard that's in the back with him, like when they're transporting him, has been like paid off by Tommy.
By Tommy, and so basically what they end up doing is, they free him, and he shows up at the confrontation. Billy Kimber is there. Everything's getting like real tense. He brings it. They still have one gun from that shipment that they stole.
Yeah, one of those huge ass machine guns.
Huge ass machine guns. He brings that out. That was like an oh shit son moment. That was like, he's like, well, if you're gonna bring guns, at least bring proper guns. They bring out that huge thing, It's like,
so you're gonna talk about being outgunned. Let's bring out some real guns.
Yeah, exactly.
And everyone's kind of like, oh, like you can see everyone on Kimber's side that were so confident before, like,
and then the kind of unexpected happens. Like, the really unexpected happens because Tommy's sister, Ada, she comes out with the baby in a carriage.
Named Carl, by the way. After Karl Marx, of course.
After Karl Marx, newest member of the Shelby family. She comes up, she's dressed for a funeral, and she makes this grand speech about, how she's dressed for a funeral, that she's good, like,
for Freddie and for
Freddie and for Tommy and them. If they die, she's gonna be dressed for a funeral. And she pleads with everybody, like, surely as I have loved ones here that I would grieve for, that you also have loved ones who would grieve for you. Mm-hmm. So, do you like really want that? Do you really want to come out here and fight and die and have people grieve for you or mourn for you, your loved ones? Would you want that for them? She really tries to appeal to like this sense, appeal to that part of people's nature, try and get everybody to put down their arms and, stop fighting.
Which is smart writing, because that's something that you think should be commonplace in a situation like this, that somebody would come forward with this idea of like seriously, are we all just going to stand here, look each other face to face and kill each other?
Yeah, exactly. And it seems to work too. It seems like she seems to reach everybody except for Billy Kimber, because Billy Kimber is a fucking idiot.
Well, he agrees with her too. He agrees that only the people that caused it should die.
Yeah, only the people. Yeah, Billy Kimber agrees that none of his men should die. The people who caused it should die. And Billy Kimber fires some shots, and he kills the one guy there from the beginning who they faked his death already. Whizbang, yeah. He kills poor Whizbang, like dies for real. And then in the ensuing chaos, after Billy Kimber fires his shots, Tommy, who also takes a bullet, by the way, Tommy, after taking a bullet, rises up, he aims his gun, and he shoots Billy Kimber square between the eyes, right in the temple, dead. Yeah. Like one shot, and Billy Kimber is dead. It's quite remarkable. And then after Billy Kimber drops dead, Tommy announces, this was just a one-on-one fight between me and Billy Kimber. I have no beef with any of you. It's over now. Everybody can go home. Yeah.
And everyone kind of just looks on for a little bit, and they're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay, yeah, pretty much. And the thing about this is, like, another thing about this is what Inspector Campbell was banking on. Like, because
they have a huge fight and they take each other out.
Yeah, we have a scene, where he's talking to Winston Churchill, and Winston Churchill, asks him, like, well, what are we gonna do about these Peaky Blinders? And, Campbell says to Winston Churchill, he says, well, we can't arrest them and have a public trial because, we don't want this getting out, that these guns were stolen, we didn't want this to be public. so we can't have a trial. And Winston Churchill is like, so we're just going to let them go free? He's like, no, I'll deal with them. And this was his big idea of dealing with him. He was going.
He tipped off Kimber, and
he tipped off Kimber because Grace tipped him off, and he tipped off Kimber. And so the idea was that they would fight and kill each other, and that he would get his revenge. That was his big idea. The one cop there who's like his right hand. He confronts Campbell about this, and like how amoral it is, and how like it goes against what Campbell was saying when he arrived, and he basically he said, like, I believed in you, you were saying all this stuff that I felt, and I
was quietly cheering to myself when you said those things.
Yeah, I was quietly cheering to myself, and I believed in you, and you betrayed that. And he says, look what you see in front of you. And Campbell says something, I see what's in front of me, and I like what I see.
There's a contrary conversation before the war started between Tommy and the bartender that they basically forced to sell the bar to them. Where the bartender said, basically called Tommy out on being an asshole and a bad guy, and that they're all bad people, the Shelbys. But he says, but everyone's still cheering for you. Why do you think that is?
Yeah.
And he tells them, it's because you're our bad people.
There are bad people. It's kind of, it's like that's a similar conversation, so it paints these characters as similar in a way, but that's how different they are. It's like, and then like there's a scene where Grace confronts Campbell at the end. She basically tells Campbell she will never love him. It's like Campbell admits to her what he said to Tommy, which is, I promised him by the end of the day his heart would be broken. And she says, and she says, mine is too.
Mm-hmm. Basically because her image of like Chester Campbell as this like father figure that actually cared about shit has just been ruined.
Yeah, that has just been ruined. So that happened. Tommy is celebrating his victory because he's essentially won at this point. He has his horse track, his racetrack now that Billy Kimber is dead and Billy Kimber's men have basically surrendered. He has his racetrack. That was a hitch in the road, but he came out on top and they're celebrating, and Tommy, and at the end we see Tommy, and it's intercut with Grace at the tracks. She's leaving. She's
waiting for the possibility that he'll arrive to be there.
Yeah.
And he's writing a letter basically to tell her his answer.
Yeah, he's writing a letter to tell her his answer. She's waiting for him. It's very tense. We see Inspector Campbell arrive. He pulls a gun on Grace. And then there's this tense moment where it keeps rapidly cutting back and forth between Tommy and Grace and Campbell, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, until the screen goes black and you hear that bang like a gun going off.
Well, interestingly there as well is that Tommy comments when he's writing the letter that when he was in the war and he faced a tough choice and he didn't know what to choose. And he's paralleling that between the idea of kind of abandoning his family to be with Grace versus staying with his family and abandoning Grace.
Right.
He says he used to flip a coin to make the decision for him.
Oh, yep.
Now he's not just a scarecrow, but he's Two-Faced too.
Yeah, now he's Two-Faced too. Yeah, he flips a coin at the end.
And that's when we hear the gunshot.
And that's when we hear the gunshot. Yeah, timed with that. It's so powerful. It makes me want to watch the next episode right now, actually. But so good, so good. Yeah, this was a great finale. This was an excellent finale. This definitely set the tone for second season. If the second season can be half as good as this, I'll be happy. Absolutely great. Awesome. Like, yeah, this is a good show. This is legit.
I'm looking forward to the next season. I know that Tom Hardy shows up.
Yes, Bane shows up. So now we have Bane and the Scarecrow.
Why, hello, Mr. Shelby.
Yeah, right, I know.
Well, don't you see, Mr. Shelby, that...
Yeah, I know, right?
Once I've taken your racetrack, then you have my permission to die.
Then you, yeah. This is gonna be so good.
So yeah, that's Peaky Blinders. That was the season 1 finale. Both of us seem to like it a lot, and we're excited about season 2. We're gonna keep watching it at the same pace we've been watching it before. We're gonna watch 1 episode a week. So tune in next week when we talk about episode 1 of season 2 of Peaky Blinders. All of this is available on Netflix. So if you want to watch along with us, just race through that first season and get up on the first episode of season 2, and we'll be talking about it on Thursday night and putting it up on Friday. So if you want to get a comment in or send in a question or be part of the conversation about Peaky Blinders with us, you can send those in to contact@TVEnthusiast.com or the weekly set at TVEnthusiast.com or either of our Twitter handles. I'm at Tyson Gifford. Will is at Voxel Hero. You can send them to those. You can comment on our YouTube channel, on our, any place you can reach us, basically. If you can get in contact with us, if you want to, be part of the conversation, yeah, just send us, hit our line and send us a comment, and we'll read it on the air for our next episode when we discuss episode 1 of season 2 of Peaky Blinders. That's it for the show. So thank you everybody for watching. We, have some other stuff coming up too. We have, a Game of Thrones preview. It's going to be a little bit later this week, just like it was earlier this week, where we normally record on Mondays and put it up on Tuesday. This time, just like this last week, we're actually going to be recording on Tuesday and putting it up on Wednesday. And that's when we'll be discussing episode 9 of season 6 of Game of Thrones, titled Battle of the Bastards. So this is going to be a big one. Episode 9s of Game of Thrones. That's when all the shit hits the fan. This is the big one. So if you want to send us a comment on that, same thing. Any of the means of catching up with us, we're going to talk about that. We're going to break down the whole episode, and in great detail, we're going to talk about a 1-hour episode over the course of an hour. So we're going to go into pretty deep detail about it, as we always do. So yeah, reach out to us in all of the same means. Until then, thank you everybody for listening. Bye.
Good night.
If you would like to voice your opinion, send an email to theweeklyset@TVEnthusiast.com. TV Enthusiast is a part of the Enthusiast Media Network. Stay tuned to TV Enthusiast and the Weekly Set podcast